Welcome to Half-Life 2, Episode 2. We are at the midpoint in our trilogy of episodes, which will conclude in Episode 3. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshairs over the floating commentary symbol and press your Use key. To stop a commentary node, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press the Use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game in order to show something to you. In these cases, simply press your Use key again to stop the commentary. Please let me know what you think after you've had a chance to play this, our latest installment in the ongoing adventures of Gordon Freeman. I can be reached at gaben@valvesoftware.com. I get about 10,000 emails each time we release a game, and while I can't respond to all of them, I do read all of them. Thanks, and have fun.
Starting Episode 2 in the crashed train has several purposes. From a story point of view, it establishes continuity with the end of Episode 1. But from a gameplay perspective, it allows players to reacquaint themselves with the basic movement controls in a safe, contained environment. Our earliest design had the player scrambling out of the wreck high above the canyon and forced them to make some precarious jumps to get to ground level. After seeing most playtesters fall to their deaths numerous times in the first 5 minutes of gameplay, we optimized for perceived rather than actual danger.
Gordon? Oh, Gordon, thank God you're okay. Hold on a sec. I'll get you out of there. Let's hope this still works. Stand back. Here goes. Wow. I forgot what a kick this thing has. Here, you take the gravity gun. You're better with it than I am. When I couldn't find you, I got... I know. I shouldn't have worried. Well, we should keep moving. I'm sure the Combine haven't forgotten about us.
The destruction of this rail bridge was our first opportunity to showcase our new cinematic physics technology. We wanted to convey to the player the scale of the train wreck, and the delicate balance the damaged bridge was left in as a result. The structural deformation of the twisted metal was modeled with the help of surface-based spring networks, driven by particle systems.
What the hell is happening?
In this case, we actually passed a rail car through the bridge and solved the deformation dynamically. For the collapse, we used an offline large-scale rigid body simulation, a technology typically reserved for the visual effects industry. In this simulation, we have about 750 moving parts, calculated with coarse, convex hulls. These in turn drove a skeleton network, to which the high-resolution geometry was skinned. Particles were then emitted from the transforming geometry and calculated in-game.
Having established the super portal as a threat in the opening vista, we decided it would make a useful landmark as the player traveled toward White Forest. In Half-Life 2 and Episode 1, we could count on the Citadel being visible in many of the maps, casting its shadow over the world. The Super Portal plays the same role in Episode 2, anchoring the player in a world while providing them with visual updates on the developing threat. The addition of beam effects and portal storm shockwaves help bring the portal to life and make it more than merely a static background element.
For the ominous mass of clouds which swirl above the destroyed Citadel, we devised a shader effect to give the impression of depth and complex turbulence. The actual geometry rendered for this effect is a single flat polygon, but through a series of pixel shader effects, which composite several texture layers, we are able to achieve the impression of realistic churning clouds. In the offline pre-visualization work that we did to initially define this effect, we developed a very realistic simulation with more than 30 layers of clouds. With real-time shader techniques, we were able to achieve an equivalent look while maintaining an interactive frame rate.
The view of the ruined yet still dangerous City 17 is a good example of a classic Half-Life vista. Vistas are sweeping scenes where many elements of design come together. This one reminds the player of what he's accomplished in Episode 1 while setting up the threat that will hang over the rest of Episode 2. It establishes the mood with the stunning skybox and shader effects, shows off believable character responses, and also literally sets the episode into motion. When the player looks at the scene, a device called a look trigger sets off the portal storm, which causes the bridge to collapse, using Valve's new cinematic physics, which we'll be showcasing throughout the episode.
I wouldn't be surprised if the rebels use this place. Safe haven it ain't. So I really don't think I had any idea what I was getting into when I auditioned for the game, because I really had no clue what Half-Life was, what Steam was, or what Valve was about. But I did really have the feeling that it was something that was really heavy, since when I was in the waiting room, everybody that was sitting across from me just seemed like they were stars or recognizable faces. And then the first time that I sat down with the Valve team, they showed me some rough animations of Alex, and immediately I just couldn't keep my eyes off her. I mean, she actually looked like someone I could be related to, and that has never happened to me.
In this first part of the episode, we're restoring the player's connection to Alex by recalling the sort of collaborative activities you shared with her in Episode 1, from combat to collaborative puzzle solving. Notice that as she works to restore power to the transmitter, she's careful not to steal the player's fun by doing it all herself. She doesn't actually solve the puzzle, although she sometimes thinks she has. This adds to her charm and helps her feel more human. Of course, the reason we're doing this is so that you will care when bad things happen to her.
Let me see if
This transmission scene was added fairly late in development, after hearing from playtesters that they weren't sure where they were going or why. Setting up the White Force base as your goal right away was important in an episode with so many open, free-form areas where players might forget what they're supposed to be doing.
If you have any blinding insights into how to fix this, go for it. Not sure what I did, but it worked. Now, to check in. White Forest! White Forest, this is Alex Vance. Do you read? White Forest, come in. White Forest, are you there?
Alex! My goodness, is that really you?
Yes, and Gordon too. We're okay. We made it out of City 17.
Alex, thank God. I can hardly believe it.
Don't worry, Dad, we're fine. But something really strange is happening with the Citadel.
Oh yes, we've been monitoring the situation. The raw discharge of the meltdown has been focused into a coherent beam of portal energy.
It's the Combine. They're trying to open another gateway.
Yes, what you're seeing is the infancy of a super portal. If it attains full strength,
It'll be the 7-hour war all over again. Except this time we won't last 7 minutes.
My God. Gordon, what if that's why they were sending so much data from the Citadel? So that...
data from the Citadel?
In the control room. They were feeding huge volumes of data directly into the core destruction sequence.
Magnuson, did you hear that? I'll bet it's the Combine portal code.
Yes, I'm not deaf.
I downloaded the whole packet. They've been chasing us ever since.
Well, of course they have. You see, Kleiner, it's the linchpin of all of their plans.
Well, I can see that. I never said...
Somewhere in that sequence, they would have had to establish a connection with the far side. What you have there, young lady, is the specific contact code for the Combine overworld. Good God. Now, if I am right about this, and I have no reason to doubt myself, you are carrying the very code Dr. Mossman had hoped to recover. Now, how soon can you get here?
Well, we'll have to get our bearings, but we can definitely...
There is no time to waste. We'll need to step up the launch schedule. And now, as soon as you get here with the signature data, we'll encode the satellite and get the damn thing into orbit.
Get here as quickly as you can, you two.
Dad? Dad!
Ongoing sector
You're breaking
sweep.
up! Come in!
Biotics
Dad, are you
confirmed.
there? Dad!
Continue
Oh,
surface
no.
sector sweep. Remote compliance.
They're still tracking us.
Exterminate.
We
Seek
need to keep
passive
moving.
signature imprint. Mandate sublevel restrictions.
Come on, this way.
The Alex Vance. What harm has come? Ah, the free man. I am pleased to see at least you are unharmed. But the Alex Vance, her condition is grave. Healing her will
From the
require
beginning of
more than
Episode
I
2's
alone
design, we
can
intended for
conjure.
Alex to be gravely injured and fall into a coma.
Summon my kin.
However, the timing and nature of her injury changed dramatically. In the earliest version, the player woke to find Alex already unconscious. We wanted the player to be unsure of what to do, but instead this turned out to be nearly confusing. In the next iteration, Alex balanced precariously in the train car near the player, only to slip and fall as the train shifted.
My kin will meet
This
us
was
at a sheltered
unsatisfying because we have
location
painted Alex as
beneath the
tough and
surface.
agile.
We must move
Having her
there
injured in a
quickly.
fall seemed
I will
arbitrary and
stabilize
impersonal.
her if the free man will
We kept
provide
trying
us
to add a
with
stronger emotional
protection.
aspect to her injury, something that would give rise to anger and fear. Around this time,
Let
the
us
hunters were
serve
coming
you,
online,
Freeman.
and we were having trouble
Help
giving them
awaits
a really
us
powerful
in the
introductory
mines.
moment. Solving both problems at the same time, we introduced the hunters as the cause of Alex's injury.
Creating the sound of the Vort's call was a refreshing break from scoring huge explosions or the bridge destruction. We wanted something subtle that would communicate the Vort's general nature as well as its specific cry for help. Sometimes it can be difficult to process sounds while still giving an organic quality to the voice. To design a sound that contained a sense of the alien personality without just sounding like another animal call, we found a way to add and process overtones while subtly altering the phrasing of the pitch. The resulting sounds give the impression that the Vorts are in fact communicating among each other with a dynamic dialogue of calls as opposed to speech.
We must hasten. Her state is delicate. Scared. Press on, Freeman. You are able.
In early tests, playtesters didn't realize that antlion grubs drop health nuggets, since they tended to pick up the nuggets by accident after squishing the grubs. In order to showcase the feature, we placed a grub on the far side of this webbing. When a player breaks the web, they squish the grub and send the nugget rolling. Most players chase the nugget and naturally understand how to exploit grubs in the future.
The antlion grubs were initially created for Half-Life 2, to visually flesh out the life cycle of the antlions. We never found the right place for them in that game, but as we developed the antlion environments for Episode 2, they were an obvious choice for Resurrection. In addition to their role in the life cycle of the antlion, they provide an equally valuable service in these dark tunnels: light. As the grubs came to life, we made sure that killing them was more rewarding. In addition to the satisfying squish effects, we added the health nugget for ailing players. Soon, we found many players were compelled to squash every grub in the map. It's worth pointing out that grubs also play a role in our dynamic resupply system. The more injured you are, the more health they provide, which allows us to create a consistent level of challenge for players at differing skill levels.
Lions! You idiot. That's Gordon Freeman.
Griggs and Sheckley started off as minor characters who were just used to explain the setup for the turret battle. Once done, they died fairly quickly, leaving the players alone to fend off the antlion swarms. We found this left players unsure of their defensive strategies and would force them to visually survey the cavern before setting up defenses. So we made the two characters stronger and had them yell out their state to players, and even suggest what openings the players should cover. This gave players extra time to set up a defensive strategy before the antlions arrived. This also let us ratchet up the intensity level by slowly heightening their reaction to the threats. Once we realized this worked, we decided to separate the characters and create an Abbott and Costello style team, to do little bits during the downtime the players were using to set up their defenses. We ended up with entertaining character moments that also cued the player on game state and events.
Griggs and Sheckley's comment about not stepping on the grubs was originally intended for comedic effect, and to suggest that, as usual, Gordon Freeman had brought trouble in his wake. However, we found that some players took this comment too literally, and would spend the rest of the level avoiding grubs in fear of spawning more antlions. We experimented for a short time with making this an actual mechanic, bringing in antlions whenever grubs are squished, but this had several negative results. It made the tunnels far too difficult, and cancelled out any benefit the player got from squishing grubs for health. We decided to keep the grub behavior simple and rewarding.
The breach is a rough, earthen tunnel, which many playtesters tended not to notice when the attack began. They felt they had been told to defend only the 3 marked tunnel openings. We addressed this confusion by changing the sequence of antlion waves so that the second attack came through the breach. Players then understood that all 4 openings were vulnerable.
In Half-Life 2 and Episode 1, players learned that turrets will always attack them, unless they are reprogrammed by allies. We needed a new visual way to instantly show that these new turrets are also allies, and decided to hark back to the aircraft nose art of World War II. The elaborate turret design also hints at how bored Griggs and Sheckley must have been sitting down here by themselves. The turret battle design went through many changes. Early stages had the player controlling 3 turrets and not ever having to fight antlions directly. After playtesters complained of not having anything to do during the battles, we changed the number of turrets to leave the player underhanded when in later rounds all the tunnels are active. This creates a better mix of resource management and combat. Later, we added this tweaked version of the hopper mines to give players yet another tool for fighting the onslaught.
We experimented a lot with the ammunition for this level. Originally we had a single ammo crate containing submachine gun bullets, positioned down near the elevator. Playtesters, however, seemed happier using a shotgun in this battle, so we added a crate full of shotgun shells and moved both crates to the top area, so players could easily trade off between different styles of gunplay.
In Half-Life 2, Lou Gossett's voice lent itself to a mystical and mysterious characterization of the Vortigaunt. In Tony Todd's reading for Episode 2, we heard new possibilities for a Vortigaunt who's more of a mystic martial artist. With new attack animations and companion behavior, we worked with Tony to build the Vortigaunt into a powerful ally, a full-on alien ass-kicker.
As long as you're down here, Freeman, maybe you can
Every
do what you
Half-Life
can.
game so far has
Make sure you're
started
on
with
the
Gordon
antlion
Freeman
sensor
weaponless. Assuming some players had just played through Episode 1, while others might not have played it at all, we had to decide how long we should spend parceling out new weapons and providing adequate time to player practice with each one. In this case, we decided to hand the player a number of weapons all at once, figuring most would have mastered their gunplay in previous episodes. We held off doing a lot of deliberate training until we began introducing newer modes of combat later in the episode.
At the climax of the turret battle, we introduced the Vortigaunt in full-on action mode. The player can and should take part in the battle, but we were very careful to make it fairly easy for him to hang back and enjoy watching the forts clear the room of antlions. We wanted to show off the Vortigaunt's new abilities and get the player excited about the role they were going to play as active allies in the struggle against the Combine.
This sensor will light up if an antlion's coming down this tunnel. More lights mean more antlions. When a tunnel lights up, we move a few turrets in front of it. Pretty simple, eh, Doc?
Hey, Doc. On your way here, you weren't followed, were you?
Don't listen to him, Doc. We're on edge because this place is riddled with antlions.
The Vort says as long as we don't step on their grubs, they shouldn't hear us this far from the nest.
Yeah, well, that's a theory I'd rather not test. We're down to our last 2 turrets, and even these are held together by baling wire and duct tape at this point. Nice to have them in a pinch, but I wouldn't exactly trust them with my life. Hey, Griggs, you might want to show Dr. Freeman where we keep the supplies, huh?
Oh, yeah. Down there by the Vort. Everything you need for Doc. They're coming! One light!
Let's move. We have to defend the Vort.
Look out! Until you showed up.
424! Come on, let's go!
I'm coming!
Try to keep up.
Let's just stay here. We got 36.
You handle 12, Doc. If you see a bug on me, how about you try to get it off next time?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, sure. You're only like 5 feet tall.
Get it.
We got the breach. Hey, Doc, you cover 24.
Okay, it's coming from everywhere. More 12.
hundreds of them. Hey, Doc, you cover the breach.
There's 12.
We got 24.
What's wrong with that?
Makes you think that? We got 12.
Incoming at 36. And the breach. And 24. Oh God, they're coming from everywhere.
We got 3 lights.
Why are there so many? I think we misunderestimated. Look alive. Get ready. Okay, get ready. 3 lights. This is gonna be bad.
Hey, it's the board.
Yeah.
Freeman.
I was just trying to scare you,
Our delay, regrettable. We killed many antlions, yet many more remain. We must continue to the Alex Vance. There is no time. More antlions approach. We shall quiet them.
Shit! The whole place is lit up! Grab a tunnel! I wasn't even supposed to be here. You ready, Freeman?
I'm glad they're on our side.
posted there in immediate number. Now to the next matter of urgency. The Alex fans. Their injuries are grave. This will necessitate deep submersion into vortices. Indeed. We require the larval extract. Oh, yes. The extract. Yes. Agreed. I will make the journey to seek the extract, deep within the nest, in the sacred nectarium. But I cannot hope to bring it back alone. We must remain to keep the Alex fans alive. Please, Freeman, join me. Yes, take yes. There is no finer companion. Well stated.
In the prototype for this level, the Vortigaunt cleared the way by blasting apart a rock pile. After a new model was created for the generator, we decided to exploit the Vortigaunt's natural relationship with electricity by having him charge the generator much the way he charges Gordon's suit. We were then able to use generators as Vortigates throughout the level to indicate areas the player could only enter with the Vortigaunt's assistance.
One of the three main themes for Antline areas, the mines were a plausible setting for light sources, mechanical obstacles, and resupply. Visually, the mines offer good contrast to the natural cave areas, and the more organic spaces the worker antlines have carved out with acid secretions.
The antline web stacks, grubs, and workers show off a new illumination shader we developed especially for this level. We began with concept art for the web stacks, modeled those, then added a material parameter that allows the model's self-illumination to be modified based on the angle at which the player views them. The end result is an object that looks lit from within by a weird volumetric light.
We wanted players to work cooperatively with the Vortigaunt just like they did with Alex in Episode 1. We didn't want to make the Vortigaunt too powerful, or he might take away from the player's fun, but we also wanted him to be a good ally to have around. One solution, shown in this scene, was a shock attack where the Vortigaunt would stun a group of antlions so that the player could finish them off.
The antline experience in Half-Life 2 was characterized by a mindless, constant onslaught of bugs rushing your way. We devised the antline worker for Episode 2 as a way to add depth and variety to the underground sequences by leveraging new types of gameplay. Unlike normal antlines, the worker chooses to avoid direct confrontation, skulking in the background and lobbing acidic globs from a distance. This extends the amount of time players spend with each creature. By contrast, an encounter with an ordinary antline is over in seconds. The spitting behavior was derived from the bull squid of Half-Life 1, but was updated to fit the more physical world of Half-Life 2. To that end, the spit globs are not merely sprites, but physically simulated objects, flying through the air along realistic trajectories.
Beware the acid lines. Their corrosive spray commits quick carving of rock.
This cave was originally designed with a pit in the middle, so the player could pump outlines into it with a gravity gun. In playtest sessions, however, very few of our playtesters actually used it in this way. The pit stayed in the room, but we changed the path to allow the player to descend into it and come back out.
Texturing of these caves provided a couple of significant challenges. We had never made such a large-scale area completely out of displacements before. The convoluted topology of the surfaces made them especially hard to UV map without unpleasant-looking seams and texture warping. After some early attempts, we decided that we were not going to be able to map this area using conventional UV mapping, so we decided to write custom shaders especially for the caves. Our custom shader combines multiple axis-aligned projections based upon the surface normal. This largely fixed our problems with stretching and seams. Since we wanted to provide dramatic lighting in these areas, particularly when lit by the flashlight, we augmented the source engine's radiosity bump mapping with a new piece of technology. This allowed us to create a form of bump maps in which the bump map surface details actually cast soft shadows across the surface. This emphasizes the surface bumpiness, especially when the light is at grazing angles.
others is our good fortune. Caution.
Turning the Vortigaunt into an expressive character was a challenge for animators, given that he doesn't have what you call a traditional face. To bring out his personality, the animators concentrate on shifting body weight and broad hand gestures. Most importantly, where human characters tend to move their heads a lot for emphasis, we concentrate his performances on expressive spinal motions.
Wherever possible, we try to mine our robust physics engine as a source of novel puzzles. It's especially valuable for giving realistic feedback to the player solving the puzzle. In this scenario, we designed the elevator to sink slightly whenever the player steps on it, giving instant intuitive feedback that it reacts to weight. This made it far more likely that the player would understand that he was dealing with a counterweight puzzle.
We like to lull players into a trance, then startle them. Here, we convince players they are expected to explore and solve puzzles for a long time. Then we abruptly change the mode of gameplay by throwing grenade-lobbing zombines at them.
Pity the generator that requires the Vortigaunt to operate.
Whenever possible, we try to give the player a glimpse of their eventual goal, even before they realize it is their goal. While we try to design such moments intentionally, sometimes the opportunities present themselves. In this case, while setting up the gag where the rail car slides into the abyss, we opened a hole in the wall and discovered a view of the distant thumpers. It became clear that we could tailor the view across the giant cave to foreshadow the spot where Gordon would eventually end up.
I think you will be very glad you saved those crates. In the parade of constant obstacles. No pit would be complete without a freeman climbing out of it. Behold, across the castle, that immense repellent device promises to cease from endless. If the freeman is in agreement, let us find our way to that vibratory haven. Go on alone. I will join you when I can.
Vortigaunt's Dispel attack is a radial explosion that takes out a swarm of antlions. It looks most impressive when seen from above, but that's not a perspective the player gets very often in the tunnels. We designed the exit from this battle purely to give the player a view from above so the Vort could put on a show.
Observe how they fight on.
The Vortigaunt's
heedless marks. Well, this is all very amusing. But we must not forget the gravity of our errand to heal the unexpected.
Originally, this room came directly after a long stretch of combat with antlions, and opened up into more of the same. Players who opened the door were faced with another swarm, which they were expected to clear with a whole bunch of handy grenades. However, most playtesters were fairly tired of antlion combat at this point, so we decided that a complete break from antlions would be an even better alternative to blowing up more of them with grenades.
A glimpse of the Antlion Guardian in this level sets up anticipation for a more extended confrontation in upcoming areas. The player needs to know what he's getting into so that the Vortigaunt's warnings will all make sense.
Not be unchallenging. The Guardian's presence guarantees an endless of larval clusters. They are commonly posted near the young.
A glimpse of the Antlion Guardian.
For most of this episode's development, there was a counterweight puzzle in this area, one the player had to solve while under attack by antlions. Although it was a clever puzzle, we felt the underground experience was already long enough, so we removed it and streamlined the path to the nectar. Having too many obstacles made it hard to keep up the sense that recovering the nectar was an urgent task.
Until we added the wooden landing here, players were very reluctant to jump down into the elevator shaft. Some playtesters went all the way back to the previous level looking for another way down. In the days of Half-Life 1, we depended on players jumping willy-nilly down every elevator shaft they encountered. But over the years, they've learned to be afraid of the things we tend to put down there.
One of the major graphical enhancements we made to the source engine for Episode 2 was the addition of shadow mapping for the player's flashlight. This allows the flashlight to cast soft, dynamic shadows into the world, adding realism and drama to the scene, particularly in dark underground areas like this one, in which the use of the flashlight is required to navigate the space. As you move around, notice that all objects in the world cast and receive realistic shadows from your flashlight.
Early versions of this area had serious problems. It was brutally punishing and unfun. We were trying to make an experience about timing and tension, but playtesters perceived this as another boss battle. But without physics and explosives, there's no way to kill the Guardian. They would empty all their ammunition into him and die horribly over and over before giving up and running away. They hated it. Our first solution to this problem was to add an arena immediately before the maze, where we hoped players would use up most of their ammo and on head crabs and barnacles and not even try to shoot them. But clever players managed to lure the head crabs into barnacles and rush past while the barnacles were feeding, arriving in the Guardian's lair with plenty of ammunition and again, the false impression that they could kill the boss. In the end, it was necessary to have the Vortigaunt tell the player, "Remember, do not kill the Guardian or the extract will be ruined," therefore justifying why you wouldn't be able to do what we didn't want you to do and what you couldn't do in the first place. This area is really fun now. The battle is almost exactly like the original layout. The big difference is that we're communicating our expectations to the player, rather than having them learn by dying.
In Half-Life 2, the Antlion Guard was originally meant to be a sort of superbug bloodhound that pursued the player through caverns and harassed him while he slipped into small spaces to hide. While we never realized that design in Half-Life 2, this scenario is, for the most part, exactly what his original design sought to accomplish. Over the course of many years of production on various titles, we found that ideas often go away into the ether for years or more, only to resurface and thrive in a new game environment. Even failed prototypes can flourish down the road.
Before we simplified the path through the Guardian's lair, we allowed a right turn at this junction, leading the player right back to where they began. One of our playtesters continued to repeatedly turn right here for half an hour. That was a compelling argument for removing the maze-like elements.
The antlion tunnels, carved out by worker antlions using their acid secretions, make up the third of 3 subterranean spaces with a distinctive visual style, man-made mines and natural cave formations being the other 2. The presence of crawl spaces was dictated by game design, but they evolved into chambers that fit logically within the life cycle of the antlions. Here, the young grubs can develop and feed in safety, although, conveniently for the player, they cannot digest useful items such as health kits.
One change we made to Episode 2 was to decouple the flashlight power from the suit power. Playtesters constantly had their flashlight on during the guard chase sequence and were unable to sprint to safety because the flashlight drained their suit's sprint ability. We wanted players to be able to outrun the Guardian with their flashlight shining. Sometimes we are forced to make trade-offs between conventions we've established in earlier installments and gameplay we need now. It would be silly to not have cool-looking underground passages just to keep flashlight behavior consistent until the end of time. As for the rationale within the story, players might assume this new feature was apparently the result of damage sustained in the train crash.
In early versions of this map, the tunnels here were more maze-like, with branches, loopbacks, and dead ends. After watching numerous playtesters get lost, it became obvious that they were not having fun. We simplified the paths and added a number of one-way choke points. The curving tunnels still keep the player in suspense, but as long as he keeps moving, he'll continue to progress, with very little time wasted in retracing steps.
In this scene, we wanted the player to feel under tremendous pressure to break through the boards. Ideally, they just barely make it through the opening before the Guardian arrives. To get this effect consistently, we had to reduce the number of boards again and again until we saw playtesters consistently scrambling to safety at the last moment.
allowed to drop straight to the bottom of the shaft. Nobody ever saw the Guardian go through the boards. Therefore, we added a small floor area and required the player to turn around to break more boards, making it much likelier that players would see the Guardian's attack.
One of our toughest jobs is tuning for difficulty. There are all kinds of ways that sloppy game design can make players miserable when they're supposed to be enjoying themselves. If the player's laughing as he dies, it's a good sign. It means the death is perceived as part of the entertainment experience, that the player died fairly and not as a result of poor design. But if the playtester's beating his head on the keyboard, we usually take this as a sign that there's still work to be done.
This puzzle proved surprisingly difficult for many players. In an earlier version, not only did you need to find the spare gear, but this elevator was connected to a disabled generator that wouldn't operate until you also attached a crank and jump-started it with the gravity gun. Although it sounds simple, most playtesters got stuck here for many minutes. We kept simplifying until we hit the version you see here.
At various times in development, this gear was loose in the environment, tucked in a dark crevice, hidden in a small box, or lost in the bottom of a flooded pool. One playtester, unaware of his low health, actually drowned in 2 feet of water while retrieving the gear. We realized that attaching the gear to a chassis identical to the engine motor was the best way to help the player make the connection between this gear and the empty space on the other assembly.
I sense the freemen down there. Activate the elevator that we may reconvene. I descend. Abide a moment longer, freemen, that we may proceed together. Freeman has done his task magnificently. The scent of rhyme fetch beckons. Follow through while I track you to the source. You have done the hardest work, admitting entrance to this chamber. Truly, the life of Alex Vance is in able hands.
We had wanted to implement a generalized particle system for quite some time, and after episode 1 we set out to create one. In previous Half-Life games, each effect had been hand-coded by a programmer working with an artist. It was effective, but not easily scalable. Our new system drew upon the aspects we found most useful from team members who had worked with both real-time systems in games and offline renderers for movies such as The Lord of the Rings. The results were an artist-friendly, modular, component-driven system. Each system can have renderers which display the particle in some form, initializers which set up certain properties of the particle, operators which carry out actions upon the particle each frame, constraints which provide movement limitations such as collision, forces which impart complex dynamics, and emitters which determine how each new particle is created. Together they are plugged into a system as needed to be as lightweight or as complex as required for the effect. Each individual component is simple, but when combined can create rather complex dynamics. Furthermore, adding additional components to support the specific needs of a game or a mod is easily done. The results can be seen in everything ranging from the simple glows of the larval extract here, to the citadel effects, blood, smoke, hunter effects, portal effects, fire, and so forth. Dynamic effects are now in the hands of the artists, who can use them to create whatever is needed, from unique one-offs in specific levels, to generalized effects for gameplay.
When the Vortigaunt discovers the extract, we wanted to do something to distinguish the nectar from all the other glowy alien substances that we've seen in the caves so far. Therefore, we had him perform a bit of a chant and had the extract give off a show of its own.
You bear some traits we thought innate to Vortigaunt. Antlion husbandry was once our ancestral practice. The creatures exude midnight.
When the Vortigaunt discovered...
We had wanted to implement a
Antlion husbandry was once our ancestral practice. The creatures exude many valuable compounds. The extract is the most prized by far. It dissolves the false veils that divide the quintessence. All this you should witness. Stop! She ebbs. If we lose her, we lose all.
One of the most significant story meetings we had near the beginning of episode 2 concerned how much we were going to reveal about the G-Man. Once we decided exactly how much to explain, we had to come up with a way of revealing it. Alex's healing sequence offered the perfect way to pull Gordon out of mundane surroundings and put him in a realm where the G-Man can speak to him directly. But dialogue is only one of our tools for narrative. By blending images from the past, the present, and the immediate future, we continue to stitch together the Half-Life story over time. We make clear that the events at Black Mesa continue to resonate, and we draw the strongest connections yet between Gordon, the G-Man, and Alex and Eli Vance.
We weave the Freeman's life with hers. Yes, there is a quickening. Hopes for this bond between you.
Dr. Freeman, I realize this moment may not be the most convenient for a heart-to-heart, but I had to wait until your friends were otherwise occupied. There was a time they cared nothing for Miss Vance, when their only experience of humanity was a crowbar coming at them down a steel corridor. When I plucked her from Black Mesa, I acted in the face of objections that she was a mere child and of no practical use to anyone. I have learned to ignore such naysayers when quelling them was out of the question. Still, I am not one to squander my investments, and I remain confident she was worth far more than the initial appraisal. That's why I must now extract from you some small repayment owed for your own survival. See her safely to White Forest, Dr. Freeman. I wish I could do more than keep an eye on you, but I have agreed to abide by certain restrictions. Well, now listen carefully, my dear. When you see your father, relay these words. Prepare for unforeseen consequences.
We sometimes use sounds to set a mood rather than to literally underscore the on-screen action. The G-Man sequence you just saw, for example, relies heavily on the use of abstract and ambient sounds. We wanted the soundscape to have a deadened, internalized quality that you get from putting your hands over your ears. So we started with recordings from inside the womb. If you listen closely, you can hear the internal gurgling noises as well as muffled heartbeats. We then added various other effects around the rhythm of the heartbeat, plus long-tailed reverbs. None of the door or transition effects are literal interpretations, but are obscure metal and feedback sounds created to work in sync with the observable actions. So all of these things contribute to the scene's dreamlike quality.
A matter of hours.
Hours? We've got to get moving.
A moment longer.
But we have to get to White Forest. It's vital.
No fear. We will put you on the right road. Now, try carefully to rise.
Whoa. I don't know what you did, but I have a feeling I'm lucky to be here.
Come then. I will get you on the path to White Forest.
Come on, Gordon.
We will continue
Next
our
to me.
hunt for advisors. Farewell. Go safely. Travel well.
Good luck out there. Okay, Freeman. Be adequate. What the hell does that mean, anyway? I don't know. Sounds like something the Forts would say.
I really consider
I think I can walk on my own
working
now.
on Alex my
Let me
acting
give it a
school
shot.
because it has stretched me. It has made me go deeper in my work. It's sharpened me up as far as
Yeah.
being able to call in emotions
Stiff,
or really just imagination.
I think I'm okay.
A creative spirit is really just a lot of imagination, I think. And afterwards, I always seem to be sharper in everything I do. I always have a good show at night, or I always go on to the next job with a heightened awareness or a heightened presence. And it's only helped me. So thank you, Alex, for that. Whoa! There was a guardian. Somebody must have done something to piss it off.
Guardians reigns over our theft extra. If it
In this vista, we release the player from the confines of the subterranean world and thrust them into a vast open space on a scale rarely seen in our previous games. The narrative takes advantage of the scale as well. With our allies at close range and our enemies on the distant bridge, we are reminded of the personal stakes and the larger threat, all in one short scene.
Sometimes very small changes can make a big difference. Originally, these troops all marched in lockstep, using the same walk animation. This looked extremely robotic. We took a second walk animation that had been done for this troop skeleton, a more upright, casual walk, and programmed each soldier to randomly blend between the two walk cycles as he crossed the bridge. This 30-minute change made a huge difference in the scene.
We tried several different ways of showing the advisor traveling with the Combine forces. We started off with an advisor pod flying over the troops, much as they flew from the Citadel at the end of Episode 1. However, we didn't want to give the impression that those pods were anything but emergency escape units. They were not meant to be self-powered flying crafts that could be piloted around in future episodes. We ended up with the solution you see here. APCs are pulling a structure holding an inert advisor pod. This lets the player study the advisors at different points in their life cycle. They see the main stages of the advisor's metamorphosis, from harmless larvae into powerful and highly mobile monsters.
Most of our dramatic scenes are constrained in such a way that the player can't progress until the scene is over. For example, there might be a gate that only Alex or a Vortigaunt can open. In this scene, where the Vortigaunt and Alex first see the Combine marching on White Forest, we simply placed a few barrels to block the way while Alex and the Vortigaunt speak. With just this slight impediment, every playtester stayed and watched the scene as intended, so no explicit gate was needed.
Alex's model underwent some upgrades for Episode 2. We added 2 new holes to her jacket, courtesy of a hunter, and dirtied her texture up a bit to show wear and tear. We also increased her polygon count, And to help with her jacket, we added shoulder blades to her back so that it flexes better when she lifts her arms. Additionally, we reconnected her belt so that instead of being rigidly attached, it now flexes and slides around more. A lot of this stuff you won't even notice. It'll just look right. Yeah, that's Alex. She's wearing a jacket. You wouldn't even think about it. It's easy to have the computer draw something stiff and awkward, but doing that pulls you out of the game. You stop believing in the characters. They just become icons. Our goal is to make our characters simply look natural, but to do that requires lots and lots of work and tons of new technology. The irony is, if we've done our job, you won't even notice. It'll just look right.
Initially, we built this area around the sand traps mechanic from Half-Life 2, warning the player that stepping on sand would trigger swarms of antlions. Soon after the warning, however, the safe islands of rock ran out, and the player was forced to run across the sand as quickly as possible. Players were confused by this and upset because Alex and the Vortigaunt would simply say they had no choice and head straight across the sand. To solve this, we decided to stage the combat with safe zones around thumpers instead.
This vista is one of the largest open outdoor areas we've tackled in our games. When rendering such an area in real time, it's necessary to use various level of detail techniques made available to us by the source engine. For example, the distant foliage and combine enemies are rendered with far fewer polygons than they would be if they were meant to be viewed up close. Additionally, the organic shapes used to model the rocky outcroppings and valley floor below use complex shading operations to combine a relatively modest amount of texture data. This trade-off, which requires a manageable amount of texture data, allows us to use more polygons, enabling us to represent more organic shapes which are in contrast to the orthogonal forms common to our traditional urban environments.
Early in the development for this level, we used an animation for Alex that showed her as clearly injured as she ran along behind the player. This really slowed her down, however, and playtesters did not enjoy waiting for her to catch up or going back to retrieve her. To address this, we started a recovery in the preceding map to make sure she was healthy enough to run at a regular speed before reaching this area.
This scenario required significant changes to the antlion guard behavior. Players of past games were used to dealing with only one guard in a confined space and without anywhere to hide. In this scenario, the player had a safe zone, but couldn't remain there to accomplish their goals. One change we made to the guards was in altering how they throw objects at the player. Originally, they shoved objects directly toward the player at high speeds. These objects were really hard to dodge, and if you weren't paying complete attention, you could easily be blindsided and killed. The guards now hurl objects along an arcing trajectory, which not only gives the player a greater opportunity to dodge, but looks awesome. The player gets to see the guard launch a car from 100 feet away, then step aside just as it crashes to the ground where they were standing.
Some testers had trouble realizing when they were doing damage to the antlion guards, so we've added a bleeding effect that grows more serious as the guards' hit points decline. This kind of visual feedback makes more intuitive sense to the players. It suits the biological nature of the creature and frees us from having to rely upon spoken explanations of gameplay.
We wanted to create a tension between Gordon and the Antlion Guardians that would develop over several levels and only resolve out here in the open. In order to differentiate this Guardian from the others that we had encountered throughout Half-Life 2 and Episode 1, we changed his texture to a glowing green. This gave the player the satisfaction of revenging himself on the creature that had chased him through the underground lair.
Nice work, Gordon. Sorry I couldn't be more help. I'm still a little weak.
Well done, Freeman. Freeman, you dispatched those guards with great dispatch. Come now. The vehicle we seek is in the encampment above. This lift will carry us to where the vehicle awaits.
Gordon.
Puzzling. The sentries should have spotted us by now.
You think the Combine found them?
Such a theory is hardly far-fetched. Lead us.
This scenario required
Combine found them all right.
But came to no good end themselves. Head crabs have had their way with both parties.
For attentive players, this is the first time we've allowed a glimpse of the G-Man since Half-Life 2. In Episode 1, we suppressed the G-Man's visitations completely to show that he had lost track of Gordon.
I see the car you were talking
But after
about.
Alex's healing incident earlier in Episode 2, he is actively watching again. Keep an eye out for him.
It appears they attempted an escape, but made it no farther than the abyss.
Well, if they got it over there, maybe we can jump it back to this side.
We recommend the Freeman.
I'm feeling a lot better.
That condition will not last long if you plunge into the toxins below. We will do well to lend our protection from above.
In Episode 1, Alex climbs up into a hidden room and uses a Combine sniper rifle to assist the player. The player never sees the rifle, only the targeting beam. For Episode 2, we decided to show the Combine sniper rifle and let the player know exactly where Alex would be standing when she used it. In Episode 1, Alex climbs up into a hidden room and uses a Combine sniper rifle to assist the player. In Episode 1, Alex climbs up into a hidden room and uses a Combine sniper rifle to assist the player. The player never sees the rifle, only the targeting beam. For episode 2, we decided to show the Combine sniper rifle and let the player know exactly where Alex would be standing when she used it. However, making it visible and accessible to the player required us to come up with a way to make the rifle usable only with the Vortigaunt.
Good luck, Gordon. Careful now.
The ambient sound of the poisoned zombie breathing was placed here to make the descent into the building scary. Although most of the team thought it was comical, there were a few playtesters visibly unnerved by it. One playtester stood at the opening to this room for a long time, afraid to go in.
Training players who haven't played previous episodes is always a challenge. Those who had not played episode 1 did not immediately understand that the Combine sniper beam was friendly. They avoided it, thinking it could damage them. Therefore, we added this staircase scenario, where we reintroduce Alex's sniper behavior and make a show out of her shooting a zombie to protect the player.
This is an instance where observing playtests gave us ideas for tuning the experience. In an early version, playtesters would trigger the lights to go out and the zombies would wake up. Then, they would run out of the room and close the door. After seeing this repeatedly, we added a trigger allowing the zombies to open the door and chase the player.
In this scene, we rigged an entity called a physics explosion to create movement among the boxes inside the dumpster. One playtester we had threw a grenade into the dumpster, and the physics explosion entity caused the grenade to fly back out. The player was surprised, thinking the zombie had tossed back his grenade. Although this happened by accident the first time, we went ahead and set up the entities to make sure it would happen for every player who lobs a grenade into the dumpster.
Earlier in this level, we blocked the path with fire and forced the player to turn off the gas jet to continue. Fire traps of this sort were plentiful in Half-Life 2, but we could not count on players knowing or remembering how to use them here. Having offered some brief training, we now build on the mechanic by having the player work with Alex to create a cooperative fire trap. Most players turn on the gas, at which point Alex shoots a zombie on the stairs to create the wall of fire. This triggers a parade of zombies to come out of the door below and walk into the fire.
Saw blades were a prominent weapon in Half-Life 2, and we wanted the player to recognize them as part of their arsenal in the upcoming warehouse battle. After watching several playtesters ignore them completely, we decided to add the zombie pinned to the wall. Most players pull out the saw blade and instantly realize its potential for destruction. After that, they tend to find and use saw blades without further prompting.
The battle in the warehouse was created fairly late in the development of this map, when we realized that the level had a steady stream of combat, but no real climax. We wanted to take advantage of Alex's sniping abilities, building on the scene in Episode 1 where the player can punt boards off windows to give her a better view of attacking zombies. Here, we have the player removing tin roof panels to give Alex a line of sight into the room below.
As much as possible, we try to create small surprises for the player that aren't related to combat at all. With this forklift puzzle, we wanted to trick the player into assuming that once they operated the lift, the puzzle would be solved. However, the player soon realizes that the obvious solution is actually a bit of misdirection.
In previous versions of this level, the platform opened directly into this pit of toxic waste. Playtesters who didn't recognize the waste as something harmful would jump straight into the pit, We changed the path so the player could make a safe landing and slowly come to understand the toxic threat.
I got your back, Gordon.
We always look for opportunities to add narrative touches in our levels. The idea behind this chair, the submachine gun, and the beer bottles is that someone used to sit here, drink beer, and drop grenades into the pit of zombies. We give the player the opportunity to reenact this experience by giving out unlimited grenades and spawning zombies as soon as the player reaches this spot.
Although this bridge is not the first occasion for cinematic physics in the episode, it was the original test subject we used to develop our effects. In early prototypes, the bridge started off in its broken position. It was a static object the player had to navigate to retrieve the car. When we incorporated the cinematic physics, we thought this bridge would be a great opportunity for players to see an immense piece of the environment transform before their eyes. The bridge collapse not only showcases the cinematic physics, it reminds players of the growing threat from the superplanet, and sets up a navigational puzzle they must use the car to solve.
The original Episode 2 vehicle was dubbed the Jalopy, which says something about how uncool it was. Early feedback was that it seemed too similar to the Half-Life 2 buggy. So we decided to redesign it so that players would feel excited rather than disappointed when they saw the car. Alex's original line when she first saw the Jalopy echoed the feelings of many early viewers. "What a wreck. Forget about White Forest. We'll be lucky if we make it to the end of the block."
Having decided that we were going to rely on a car to get to White Forest, we had to figure out how to get Alex into the vehicle. Games often accomplish this by moving their characters close to the vehicle and then teleporting them inside in a very visible and jarring manner. We knew this would ruin Alex's believability as a character, so she had to smoothly get into a vehicle the way you would expect a person to in real life. This was no small task, given all the strange angles and positions the player could work the vehicle into.
Look at this car.
Alex also needed multiple entries into a vehicle, given that the doorway she wanted to use could be blocked or otherwise inaccessible.
Shotgun.
This also provided interesting moments for Alex, where she could vault over the hood of the vehicle in a very heroic fashion. The interaction between her and the vehicle was intriguing just by itself.
We'll keep on the lookout.
Once we were sure she could enter and exit the vehicle convincingly, we then had the task of making her believable as she sat next to you. Our first experiments revolved around Alex reacting to the physical nature of the vehicle. When it crashed into a wall, she needed to be jolted. When you went around a bend, she needed to lean with the momentum of the car. These details were crucial in making her feel like she was really going along for the bumpy ride with you. We also wanted her to be very aware of her surroundings and what the player was doing while in the vehicle. If you ran over a zombie, she needed to echo the internal reward the player felt for accomplishing the feat. If you were about to hit the wall, we wanted her to flinch and react to the impending collision, much as the player at home would be doing. There was a fine balance between making her too much of a backseat driver or having her be too quiet next to you. Ultimately, we wanted Alex's presence in the vehicle to seem so natural that players would never consider it anything other than normal.
I don't think I really got the full scope of what Alex Vance is or how she's created until the first time that I went to Valve headquarters. And what was really important was that I got a better idea of how big the team was. I mean, a lot of people work really hard to make Alex Vance who she is. And I mean, you hear my voice and, you know, it's easy to say, oh, that's Alex, or Jamil is Alex, but that is so not the case. These people spend hours in front of their computer or writing their scripts or dreaming up this beautiful person, and it really just, I'm just the cake topping, really.